Howdy, folks, and welcome to Fireside Friday, the show where we take a deep dive on a single song and see what we can learn from it. My name's Cary Nightingale, and with me as always is my co-host, Kevin Niebrick. Let's light this match. In today's episode, we'll be diving deep into 2002's Volcano by Damien Rice. The studio version features acoustic guitar, bass, drums, cello, and perhaps most notably, duet vocals between Lisa Hannigan and Damien Rice. Kevin, what are these crazy kids singing about?
Cary, Volcano is a song about a fiery romance between a man and a woman, a tale as old as time. She has found the love of her life, and if he didn't have commitment issues, that wouldn't be a problem. Truly a raw deal for our nameless gal. But if they were a better pair, then this song probably wouldn't be quite as intriguing. That's a pretty narrow interpretation of the meaning of this song, and in all honesty, I could have missed the mark by a mile. The lyrics to this song are particularly high in ambiguity. They raise many questions, but fail to answer them, compelling the listener to form their own conclusions. We're given very little external detail, and any mention of our surroundings is avoided altogether. Instead, this song relies heavily on metaphors to express the thoughts and emotions of our characters, which is really the centerpiece of this dialogue. The words themselves are well structured and emphasize rhythm over clarity of message. We have frequent uses of alliteration throughout this piece, and our chorus employs the use of anaphora, a rhetorical device that we've discussed in the past. Anaphora is when you begin successive clauses with a repeated sequence of words to emphasize an idea or to attract attention. In this case, I think it was very well executed. Our rhyme scheme is tight, but avoids a persistent use of perfect rhymes, like cat and hat, for example, which makes each independent line sound maybe a bit more honest, or rather less contrived. Using our first verse as an example, our rhymed pairs end on the words that and back, knees and need, around and down, near rhymes that don't stand out initially upon listening and allow us to really absorb the meaning of the lines themselves without focusing on the cleverness or lack thereof of our rhyming words. All in all, I would say that the lyrics to this song were very well structured, highly rhythmic, but maybe just a bit too vague. But those were just some of the things I noticed on my deep dive of the lyrics.
Wow, and here I thought it was really just about fellatio.
God damn it, Cary. All right. I knew you were going to read something dirty going on in this song. It was a matter of time. And to be fair, I can't tell you for sure that that's not what's going on. Again, because the lyrics are kind of ambiguous. When your writing is vague, one of the potential consequences is unintended double entendre. In this song, we have images of characters on their knees, so it's not surprising to me that you would maybe infer a sexual act where hopefully none was implied. So, Cary, I did enjoy pouring through these lyrics, but I wasn't particularly partial to any one line. Do you have a line that really grabbed you by the ass?
Well, I don't know if I would put it that way exactly, but yes. You give me miles and miles of mountains, and I ask for the sea. I think it's such a beautiful way of expressing why a relationship needs to end. It's one of several lines that evoke that melancholy emotion that comes with a breakup, but I want to talk about how else that emotion's delivered. Volcano has a pretty relaxed rhythm at about 77 beats per minute, and it's played in a minor key. It spends about 40% of its time on an A minor chord. The parts played by the bass and the acoustic guitar, they don't stand out too much in terms of complexity. They serve more to outline the harmonic movement. With those instruments and the drums keeping it simple and quiet, the real stars of the show, cello and vocal melodies, they can step into the spotlight. String instruments like violins, violas, and cellos are incredibly expressive. I suspect a lot of that is being fretless. They can slide between and around notes in ways that keyboards and fretted instruments just can't. It also mimics the human voice, and the bowing really gives a unique resonance. There's also something to be said about the volume dynamics of this piece, best illustrated by the vocals. They're a little louder in the chorus sections than in the verses. They really soar over in the bridge, especially with that dominant 5 chord. But then they sink to a whisper in the outro. It's an excellent performance technique that helps the listener focus on what's really most important at various points in the song. Now, there's something else I noticed about the mix that I really hope was intentional. Up until the bridge, a little past halfway into the song, the vocals are very close to center. During and after the bridge, though, they move more to their respective sides. It feels like Lisa and Damien's intimacy gives way to distance at that point. It reinforces the notion that there's just no keeping them together. Admittedly, it also makes it sound clearer and prettier when they're singing simultaneously to not have them overlapping in the center, especially since their vocal pitches, the frequencies, are not very far apart. The arrangement for the outro also gives a swirling, almost trance-inducing feel for the listener with that layered call and response harmony part from both Damien and Lisa. Now, Kev, at this point, I think we should have a fireside chat about the subjective appeal of this song. But that'll have to wait. It's time for a short break. This one's brought to you by the Lazy Leopard Skincare Regimen. If you're ready to change your spots, give the Lazy Leopard a try. We'll be right back. Howdy, folks, and welcome back. As promised, it's time for a little fireside chat. Kev, how well would you say that Damien Rice communicated his message and appealed to his audience's emotion in Volcano?
Well, I thought the message was a little fuzzy, but this song does do an excellent job of really pulling at your heartstrings. Ambiguity is arguably a good way to reach your audience emotionally. By avoiding the specifics, you allow them to kind of fill in the details on their own, using their own varied experiences. But don't get mad when they get it wrong. Personally, by not being able to fully understand the dynamic between the two characters, I feel a little less emotionally engaged than I imagine the authors probably would have intended.
Well, I think I can see what you're saying there, Kev, but for me, I don't know. I feel like there's a little more pop currency, I guess I would call it, for a songwriter if they leave out some of those details so that they can leave the most basic message to be understood and felt by the largest portion of the audience or even the population. Certain themes are universal. You mentioned earlier that a fiery relationship between a man and a woman is a tale as old as time. It's as old as time because humans just cannot stop from fucking up the way they have relationships. You know, there's a time and a place for richly detailed lyrics, because of how vividly they can make a listener imagine a scene or a story. And that can really help create a bond between the listener and the song or the listener and the artist, right? But it can just as likely alienate them. Think about some of the murder ballads that we've listened to and analyzed those lyrics. Very rich in detail, appealing in their own way, but more of a niche product, right?
Yeah, that's fair to say. I get that.
The approach in Volcano it's a little more common, but it does seem effective. There's a reason why it was a pop hit that came to my attention back in the early 2000s. But what did you think of the repeat listenability value there, Kev?
Oh, repeat listenability is high for me. I couldn't give it full marks because the vocals after the bridge kind of derailed into cacophony. Um, the live recording, I'll say, was much more listenable in that regard, though.
Yes, that's an excellent point. I talked about how the mix was exceptional from the bridge all the way to the coda, but it was cacophonous. I totally understand what you're saying there. Now, the official music video is different from the studio version. I think that's the one that you're referencing. It's like a live version with just Damien and Lisa and then a cellist. But the mix and the use of stereo panning in that video was kind of underwhelming to me, especially after really deep diving into the studio version that's got the full band. So ultimately, I rated Volcano by Damien Rice at an 8.0 out of 10 on the TuneScore scale. As always, we invite and encourage you, our dear audience, to give a listen to the track that we've discussed today. It's on our TuneScored Tracks playlist on our YouTube channel.
While you're there, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel and leave us a comment letting us know what you thought of our score and critique. If you're an up-and-coming songwriter, that's also a great place to recommend one of your songs for a TuneScore and some good old-fashioned, honest feedback. We'd love to hear from you.
We've had a lot of fun today, and we hope that you did too. That's been Kevin Niebrick. I've been Cary Nightingale. We'll see you in the next one. Until then, stay sound.
I'm telling you not to be a robot. Now I'm doing it.
Oh, trust me, Kev, you are very far from anything resembling the precision of a robot.
God damn it.